So what you're looking at here is a knife that is on many websites under many different identities. This is supposedly a Miller Brothers Blades clone, although when I looked on the website, there was no build like this to be found. So I think the Chinese just slapped their finish on the blade and the logo on there, and depending on what company marketed the build out and put different handles on it, like Woodwinds or whatever, then that ended up being what it was. So starting this out, just wanted to show a little land clearing again. This is kind of becoming an important thing for me because a survival tool, if you're going to have a survival tool, you're going to have to probably be clearing land if it's a long-term thing. Whether that's clearing it to build a shelter, a camp for the, for the long term, or for just a couple of nights, you're going to have to clear some shit out, and you need a knife that's going to hold up to that and have the chopping power to knock down small trees like this to build shelters with. So my first test, generally, if I consider something to be a survival knife, that's not necessarily suited for everything, but for, it doesn't excel at everything, but it can do everything, if that makes sense. I mean, you could clean a deer with this. It'd be a little harder, but, you can clean a deer with a big knife, too. But this will definitely get you a shelter and work in a social work context more than a lot of other knives. So, got it out, showed some chopping of smaller trees and the kind of stuff you would need to actually do legitimate bushcrafting of a shelter to have something to sleep on, something to sleep in, something to sleep under, right? Keep you out of the wind, keep you from being exposed to the elements, and it does it pretty well. As far as, just a good all-around tool, this one is pretty impressive, and at a super budget price. It's a $26 and under, and many times you can get it for way less than that. But it really does the trick as far as the chopping goes. And to be quite honest, I probably should have touched this thing up. I've had this longer than a lot of the other blades that I've been reviewing, and I just hadn't got around to it because I didn't know what to call this blade. But we're at the time where this needs to come out and just get this over with. But this is a great blade, probably one of the best blades that I've found on these Chinese websites, whether it's Temu or you can get them on Amazon with wood handles. You can get them on AliExpress or, any of these freaking websites. But this thing's a freaking competitor as far as I would face this off against a BK9. Now, there might be differences in metallurgy and things like that, which I'm not really sciencey on, but I think that as far as toughness and having the chopping power, it will definitely compete, which is pretty badass. I like that about this being a cheap blade that you could face off with the more expensive stuff with. There's no problem with edge rolling. It came razor sharp. It's not as sharp as I want it to be. Like with this rope, I was hoping that it would go through a little faster than that. But it still gets the job done handily. But a lot of this is just me using it and not even doing a bit of touch-up before this video. Because this knife is absolutely capable, and I do recommend it. Unlike the most recent long-form knife review of the last Becker clone that I did that was like a BK9 clone. This thing has none of those problems. So that I can definitely say this knife is a badass beast and totally worth going and finding a version of it, whether it's the cheap plastic handled version or the wood handled version or some other iteration of this. They definitely stole the Miller Brothers finish on the knives if you look on the website. Doing a little tip testing here. I think that this is a pretty fair test of a tip on a knife. And there's no bending and stuff like that. As far as like sticking it in a log and doing the tip test like that, I just don't see that as any like real use case that I would actually do. So I don't really do that a whole lot. But as far as needing to puncture something, these barrels are pretty tough, especially at the seam. And just in general, there's a lot of bounce back and stuff. But I think this is a fair test, and it does a pretty damn good job of that. also doing just a little chopping of this thick rope, and I don't know exactly what kind of rope this is, but it's pretty coarse, stout stuff. And this knife is just great as far as having like good chopping power in the front end. It's real weighty on the front end. The handles, while being cheap polymer, are pretty comfortable and just fit my hand well. But this thing is a chopping beast. So to start this off, I just want to say, this was the video I was kind of holding off on just because I don't really know what to call this knife. Now, it has Miller Brothers blades on the side of it, but let's just be clear, that's not what this is. It's not a Miller Brothers blade. It's a Chinese company, whatever, but it's a thick bastard, all right? But like all Chinese things, yes, they ripped off the logo, but I also went to Miller Brothers website, and I did not see any blade. Sure, the actual finish, that's all over their blades. Obviously their logo is all over their blades, but I did not see a single build that they made that looked like this knife. So it just seems to be something they're slapping on this. And many other makes. There's one on Amazon called Bachor, and I've thought about making this the title of this Miller Brothers Bachor whatever knockoff blade, because it's sort of its own thing with what seems to be just a company's name slapped on it from the Chi-Coms. But man, this thing is this knife goes hard as far as a good blade. It showed up razor sharp, and it's not as sharp as it once was, because I've had it out and I've chopped a down tree and chopped a bunch of limbs off of it. I've done a bunch of testing of this knife without actually filming it, you know, and that's the same way with a lot of knives that I use. And I've had this one for several months, and I love this thing. What I don't love is the scabbard, which we'll get to that. But as far as this being a badass chopper and willing to hold up to some abuse, man, sorry for the camera shake. I don't see where this isn't like one of the top of the game things as far as the pores having good stuff to use for a chopper. You know, I got this, I'm pretty sure it was like under $20. It's usually like $26, but I've seen it for $16. And yeah, let's be clear, the scabbard is shameful. Okay, as far as the lock-in, let me lock this damn thing in here. But the lock-in on it, it's not terrible. It doesn't do a whole lot of shaking. It's pretty all right, guys. You can hear a little bit of rattle, but as far as the retention and even just the solidness of this scabbard, it's not bad. What is absolute trash is that a tech lock was mounted to these two screws like a ½ inch off the back of the scabbard, and it had no stability. That's the problem. If they put like a metal clip on this, did a Chinese version of an ulti-clip, backed it with some sort of thicker plate, and just had some heavy duty nylon webbing for a strap with like a little latch up top, this is kind of an unstoppable freaking beater. And if you question that, you should totally go find this on sale on AliExpress, Temu. You can buy the Bachor version of it on Amazon with the wood handles. There's several makes of this with the same edge geometry, same build, other than just like the handles change a little bit, and it just goes from wood to these are sort of cheap plastic. I mean, these are just polymer handles. These aren't even G10. So yeah, they're on the cheap end, but they haven't rattled off. I have really beat on this knife. The coating actually holds up pretty good for as much as I've beat on it. Guys, as far as like the knife that I'd put up yesterday, that is the BK9 clone, that's like a really shitty bad one that I basically called an autopsy of a video because the edge kept warping. This thing holds up really well for a competitor for the more expensive knife market.
if you're into budget blades, you should avail yourself of the opportunity to get one of these for like cheap on sale. I can't recommend this one enough. As far as for the pours, this one is a badass. You will have to fix your scabbard. The scabbard is a pile of shit. But this knife, it's thick. It doesn't have a lanyard hole. But damn if this thing isn't stout. And I'll stand by it. It holds up to serious hardwood abuse, and it's long enough to be a good land clearing tool. I would like to do a video at some point, this versus a real BK9, and just see what the comparison is, because they're pretty badass. And I got some buddies that have got some bigger blades like that, like a BK9. I might be able to get one off of a buddy and just get the same medium and put them head to head. But this thing is tits. So ignore the gay rip off of a company's logo. There are makes of this without the Miller Brothers thing on it. But so I'm just gonna call this budget Chinese survival knife or something stupid like that. I'll try to come up with a not so gay title for this, but I don't know what to call this, and I don't want to put Miller Brothers in the title because I think that's kind of gay too. But damn, I love it. Can't recommend it enough, and you should totally check this out. Get it on sale. You're gonna love it if you're into a big budget beater, man. I don't know anything about like the steel in this, but I do know that it holds up, and that's kind of how my reviews are. I'm not so much worried about the sciencey side of it, but the experiential side of it. If it holds up and I have put it through hell, then I'm cool with it. I don't care if it's 440C, 1095, 1075, or some super steel. If it holds up, that's what I'm concerned about. And this holds up. And with that, thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying the budget blade content. We're gonna have some better stuff coming up soon. Getting a little bit of hookup from some good dudes on some cooler blades that are not Chinese knockoffs. And this channel is self-funded, so you know, if you're bagging on the shit that I'm showing, what I am showing is stuff I haven't seen all over YouTube. So this might be some of the only reviews on YouTube for these blades, and I'm being honest about it. So it's self-funded. These are blades I've bought myself so far, and you know, a lot of them have turned out to be pretty sweet. Some of them have turned out to be piles of shit. But know that I'm not lying for any affiliate or anything like that. So with that, take this as an honest review, and we will catch you on the next one, and I appreciate y'all watching.
If you're in the market for some handcrafted quality leather gear that will last a lifetime, look no further than Fortner's Frontier Leather. With log carriers, holsters, belts, knife scabbards, wallets, and many other items handmade with the same competent craftsmanship like the craftsmen of yesteryear. Visit modernfrontiersman.com or click the link in the bio to view the entire catalog and use code Missouri Survival at checkout.